Is that...
Yeah. My time left. Think about it. Wouldn't want to lose track of time and just run out. Today, it's exactly 3 months. 3 more months. And then I'll be gone from this world. No! No, you can't!
Hey, how's it going, folks? Today, we're going to be taking a look at Figma Mio from Xenoblade 3, the first Figma for the Xenoblade series, and surprisingly not the last, but we could talk about that a little bit later. Over the past year or so, I've made it very apparent how much I like not only the Xenoblade franchise, but this particular character as well. Consider the fact that within my 12 plus years of collecting figures, that this is the only time I've ever bought a figure twice, and damn it, I might just do the same thing again for her scale. It's a bit of a bummer though that she did not get a deluxe sleeve for the packaging that some Figma get, like Dread Samus or Lady Maria, but what can you do? Let's not get it twisted though. Yes, I am very biased towards Mio, but I plan to be very fair in my assessment, even if at the end of the day, I'm still going to immensely enjoy this figure. Xenoblade 3, the game that completely rewired my brain ever since I played it. Favored in the series too, alongside one of my favorites of all time. So, a little setup here. Mio is a party member of the Ouroboros, a group of 6 soldiers made up of members of opposing nations, Keves and Agnes. Once sworn enemies, now turned allies in a story of struggle against a world that suppresses the people of Ionios into a never-ending war. You see, Ionios is a real shithole. Everybody is born a soldier, no one gets to live a normal life, and your life expectancy caps off at just 10 years. Fighting in order to live and living to fight, that is the way of their world, but Mio's time left is a bit more limited than the rest of the party. 3 months left to leave her mark on the world before she's gone. You can imagine the toll that must take on her, and yet she fights on, as nothing will change if this world remains in its stagnant state. Oh, but also she's a Welsh cat girl and she's very cute, and that's important too. Mio's outfit, like the rest of the party, is a mix of gear from their nation alongside clothing supplies from fallen soldiers of the city. Agnes is heavily Japanese inspired for whatever reason, don't think it's ever explained actually, perhaps it's the queen's wishes, but you can see some of that within Mio's clothes, primarily white with red ropes and sashes, along with some gold on the trim of her skirt and the buckles on her boots. Sure is reminiscent of another Welsh cat girl's color scheme, but hey, Mio also managed to snag this fashionable jacket, which she wears somewhat loosely. After seeing the paint job the scale figure got with the metallic finish on the jacket, the glossy gray just doesn't impress nearly as much, though I can still appreciate them differentiating the finishes on her clothing. In order to make her poseability more of a reality though, they had to cut the jacket into separate pieces, which frankly just looks messy. With careful posing you can hide some of this of course, but I can't help but feel the execution of her jacket could have been handled a little smoother. Not much else to complain about though, appearance-wise, or well, I wanted to say that, but the wonderful folks at Good Small Company decided not to paint her core crystal the correct color, opting for a solid metallic blue rather than a mix of pink and blue like it should be. But hey, it's not a big deal or anything, it's not like the shape and color of her core crystal holds any significance to her identity or anything. On that note, I really thought they skipped the red tints for her eyelashes, but after looking at my footage and really zooming in, it's clearly there, which really caught me off guard, just impossible to see under normal circumstances. But it's such a small size, I can forgive them for that. Same with the term mark on her neck. It looks like the term mark, but I just cannot tell if they actually painted the inner dot red, which would imply that she's dead. The printing on her eyes, however, are super clean and look just like Saitam's art style, which is great to see, as I really couldn't tell which style they were going for in the promo photos. The in-game models look slightly different, you see, at least to me, but it's clear now where they were modeling her figure from. And speaking of modeling, they sure did make her butt curvy and pronounced behind the skirt, like, wow, that's impressive. I'd say it's too much, but we've all seen the M costume, so this thickness might as well be canonically on point. As for the accessories, you get quite a nice array, including multiple different hand parts, but we'll tackle these one by one. First up are the dual moon blades, her weapons of choice. Think of them sort of like chakrams, but they continue to carry over that Agnian style. They got good sculpts, the gold looks crisp here too, the yellow really pops, but I gotta wonder why they painted them white when every source I've checked has them colored silver instead. First the jacket, now the moon blades. Was silver paint just banned at the factory? Why is this happening? And while Mio is an excellent fighter, she's also an Offseer, a really important role in both nations tasked with mourning the dead by sending off fallen soldiers' husks through music played through flutes. A very thin and fragile feeling flute, but an important part of Mio's character and a requirement should you want to fully represent her and the game itself. And finally, we have her diary, opened up to some illegible scribbles, and her checklist of days remaining. You can't close the book, unfortunately, and I think it would have been nice if they included a pen. Like, come on, that's not asking for that much. But hey, if you ever wanted a depressing reminder of just how limited her time is, well, here you go. Don't worry about it, Mio. I have your real notebook right here. Much more space for your thoughts. And you know what? She's rather expressive too, coming with 4 faceplates which you've been seeing throughout the video, each one kind of matching up nicely with one of the accessories. Standard for multi-purpose, closed eyes for the flute, and shouting for action poses with the moon blades. But also one more, this blissful smile, which was often showed in the marketing with her final accessory, longer hair. What a cool surprise this was. They did not need to include this. I mean, they should have, but for spoiler reasons I could understand skipping it. Crazy how a simple hairstyle change can give Mio's Figma a fresh new look, but yeah, her hair doesn't look great from the back, but that's due to all the ball and hinge joints, the price you pay for poseability, I suppose. Speaking of poseability though, her articulation is about average, which I find a little disappointing. Her skirt is bendable plastic, but her legs still feel limited to a degree. Her knee bend is decent enough, and she does have a toe bend as well, though it was incredibly tight out of the box. If anything, her torso provides quite an impressive ab crunch. However, despite the segmented jacket, her arms still feel restricted and stiff. You really won't get much range here unless you spin the joint itself at the shoulder. Head's on a ball joint as you would expect, but surprisingly you can't really look up at all, just forward and down. I mean, sure, the joints feel tight, but for a character known for their speed being a literal dodge tank, you'd think her Figma would allow for a bit more fluidity. You know, maybe I'm coming into this figure with the wrong mindset. My last Figma being Dread Samus really set the bar a bit too high. Samus felt like a feat, a true step forward for the company if you will, innovating on poseability with a beautiful paint job. But Mio, she's good, solid even, but also leaves me wanting just a bit more. Of course, the demographic this Figma is aimed at will be very satisfied with this figure, and it's not like I'm not. She is damn cute, the sculpt is super accurate, and the paint job is very solid for the most part, minus some like black lines on the tank top that looked a little rough to me. They even gave her a fat keister. They did not need to do that, but they did that for us. But either way, this Figma really is just aimed at Xenoblade fans. It's aimed at me. You can make a Figma of any character from Xenoblade and we'll probably buy it. You make one for Gonzalez and we're all gonna line up for that because we have no self-control and we just want to support the series however we can. Which is why it's just nuts to me that Uni is getting a Figma. I mean, you go girl, I'ma buy that real quick. I love her too. But like, what the hell is that all about? You're finally committing to making Xenoblade Figma, something nobody was expecting. You have the perfect opportunity to make Noah Mio's partner. You could exchange the flutes with the Figma. The idea's right there, but you're not gonna do that. No boys allowed. That's actually wild. You know what, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Personally, I'm rooting for A to get a figure, and if I have a request for a character, 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna want it to be a scale figure instead. So it doesn't really matter for this conversation, but that's gonna do it for our video. If you're a fan of the Xenoblade series or just Xenoblade 3 specifically, then I'm like 99% sure you already picked this Figma up. But for those on the fence or for those who just wanted to check this video out, hopefully you found it interesting in some way. Kinda sad to think about that I just won't be able to review another Xenoblade figure for at least a year, probably more, but that's just kinda the speed at which things happen. I gotta say though, and I was not expecting this, she is already out of stock at multiple different stores. AmiAmi, HobbyLink Japan, Hobby Search, seems like she's selling out fast. So if you like Mio, you like the Xenoblade series, I recommend picking up this Figma. She's great, she's not the peak of Figma, but she is very good. That'll do it for me though. Have a good one, fellas. Play Xenoblade if you haven't already, and take care. Later.